Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Vedica.
My name is Aiden Grella.
My name is Henry Dinezza.
And this is the Day of Infamy.
On December 7th, 1941, Japanese forces bombed Pearl Harbor. President Roosevelt communicated information through a speech to the American people that they were now at war and gave them hope for victory. The communication of his speech informed America about the Pearl Harbor incident and the Axis powers. President Roosevelt's A Day of Infamy speech inspired Americans to fight in the war, which caused America to change from an isolationist nation to a global superpower. The American people emerged united and determined to win the war through absolute victory.
During World War II, Hitler craved power, so the Nazis and their allies started attacking places they wanted to imperialize. Hitler became allies with the Japanese forces in order to intimidate other countries.
December 7th, 1941 began as a typical Sunday for most Americans, but suddenly all that changed, irrevocably and in ways that they would remember for the rest of their lives. I, Harry L. Hopkins, was with the President throughout the day, December 7th, 1941, at his private study, the White House.
Hello? President Roosevelt, the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii just before 8 a.m. Hawaii time.
No!
What should we do?
I'm working on it as soon as possible. The Japanese have just bombed Pearl Harbor. That has to be a mistake. I'll recommend a war council meeting to discuss this devastating matter.
The meeting started at around 3 p.m. FDR's key military and diplomatic advisors attended the meeting.
Mr. President, I have information. Yes, go ahead. At the attack, more than 2,400 people died, including 68 civilians. The Japanese destroyed 11 Navy ships, including 8 battleships, all with a Type 91 Model 2 torpedo.
Thank you, Harry. General, do you know anything about why the Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor?
Did they do it to weaken the American people? Did they try to destroy the U.S. Pacific Fleet? I believe so.
Thank you, General.
At around 4:15 p.m., the meeting had concluded. FDR was back in his private study, contemplating whether America should go into World War II or stay out of it.
I've been thinking about a war message to Congress for a while now, and I think I'm ready to propose it.
The President took some time to write out his message.
I will change the phrase world history to infamy. I think it will really track the American people's mindsets, Harry. It is vital that I communicate this message to the joint session of Congress for 2 reasons. To urge Congress to formally declare war on Japan, and to rally the American people to support the war effort.
At the time, many Americans were scared, nervous, frightened, and filled with many emotions regarding the attack, and Roosevelt assured to inspire and to give the American people hope to win the war through absolute victory. He used a significant number of details in his message to make America very interested in his topic. He wrote this message in under a day by himself without any speechwriters and presented it out to the joint session of Congress at 12:30 p.m. the next day.
Americans at this time were at a state of chaos. They were looking for answers about what had happened and if they were going into war. They needed a sense of hope and inspiration for victory. They needed their fears calmed, and President Roosevelt was just the person to do it.
Senators and representatives, I have the distinguished honor of presenting you the President of the United States.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, and the House of Representatives. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its empire, looking towards the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. Indeed, 1 hour after, Japanese air squadrons had commenced bombing in the American island of Oahu. The Japanese ambassador to the United States and his colleague delivered to our Secretary of State a formal reply to a recent American message. And while this reply stated that it seemed useless to continue the existing diplomatic negotiations, it contained no threat or hint of war, of armed attack.
The president communicated to the American people that the Japanese had not said anything prior to the attacks about a war or a disagreement. They had completely caught the United States off guard. They had totally and in cold blood betrayed America and its people.
It'll be recorded that the distance from Hawaii and Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even weeks ago. During the intervening time, the Japanese has sought to deceive the American people by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace.
FDR had to prove his point on what he was doing about this horrific event. Whether he knew about the attacks or he had no clue what the Japanese had planned, as the President of the United States, he had to do something about it.
Japan has therefore undertaken a surprise offensive extending throughout the Pacific area. The facts of yesterday and today speak for themselves. The American people have already formed their opinions and will understand the implications to the very life and safety of our nation.
The president used extraordinary words such as deliberately planned, deliberately sought, unprovoked, and dastardly to communicate that the Japanese were dishonorable. The president used the phrase to win through absolute victory, to give the American people hopes to win the war.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people, in their righteous might, will win through to absolute victory. I believe I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but make it very certain that this form of treachery shall never again endanger us. Hostiles exist. There's no blinking at the fact that our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph. So help us God. I ask that the Congress declare, since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
After President Roosevelt gave his speech, the American people were inspired to fight in this horrible and dangerous war. The American people were not scared anymore. Because of FDR's A Day of Infamy speech, the American people were inspired to fight in this horrible and dangerous war. FDR communicated a message in a fireside chat on December 9th, 1941, the day after his speech that assures how America can overcome this devastating time and get through it.
We are now in this war. We are all in it. Every single man, woman, and child is a partner in the most tremendous undertaking of our American history. We must share together the bad news and the good news, the defeats and the victories, the changing fortunes of war.
Since President Roosevelt addressed this speech, informing and inspiring America to fight in the war, America accompanied the war and won.
The Japanese Empire wanted to make the American people give up, but with the help of FDR's A Day of Infamy speech, it served to unite the American people instead.
Because they won, the Axis forces are not ruling over America.
The president's speech changed America from an isolationist nation to a global superpower.
December 7th, 1941 was perhaps the most significant day in the history of the United States.
Thank
you.